All right, hello my bookish friends. Welcome or welcome back. I'm Elizabeth. This is Reading Riley, and today I'm going to be doing an audiobook haul. What is an audiobook haul? Well, it's the same as a regular book haul, except it's all of the books that I have on audio that I want to read. It's here. I told you in 2023, I'm going to start doing audiobook hauls. Why does nobody do audiobook hauls? I don't know, but I typically don't do regular book hauls because I don't buy the book until after I've listened to it if I like it. I'm going to stop putting myself in a corner and come out of the box and tell you about all of these amazing audiobooks that I have on my phone that I cannot wait to read. I want to go over all of the different apps that I use for audiobooks. I think I will actually do separate videos with each app to get started, and after that, once we have the base down, because I've got a lot, it's a lot, y'all, then I will kind of do group videos with all of the new ones I've acquired after that. So first, let's talk about the audiobook apps that I use most. First and foremost, Libby. That is my library app. Of course, if I can get it for free, I'm going to get it for free. Like, hi. Libraries have been so much better in recent years about keeping these in stock, keeping multiple copies when it's something popular, which don't get me started on that. I don't understand the logistics of being multiple digital copies and you give it to several people anyway. Like, I don't get it, but anyway, moving on. If I can get an audiobook from Libby, that's the first place I'm looking. That's the first place I'm checking. Second, I'm checking SCRIBD. Okay, I know. They've had some issues where it would just drop out for an indeterminate amount of time and then come back in randomly, but that hasn't been happening for me lately. Let me know if it's still happening for you. But either way, SCRIBD has a chokehold on me because they know I need them. I need SCRIBD because I don't know how much the price is now, but I pay I think $12.99 a month. And for that amount of money, I get so many books every month, so many audiobooks. They will like throttle you after a certain amount of time, and I don't know the logistics of that, of how it works, of whether it's like how popular the book is, how many you've had, how many you've actually saved or downloaded. I save them, I don't download them. Maybe that makes a difference, I don't know. But if you're interested, I will put my link down below if you want 60 days free of SCRIBD to try it out. It also gets me 30 days free, so it's a win-win for both of us if you want to check that out. They do have a lot of new release books. They also have a lot of backlisted books. And a lot of times, if you wait a couple of weeks after a book has come out, it will then be on SCRIBD. So it's just so convenient. There are so many books on there. They have new release books, they have backlists, but they also have a lot of smaller books that maybe are self-published or maybe are from smaller publishing houses that don't get a lot of attention. And I've found some really good gems on there as well. That's where I originally found Any Man by Amber Tamblyn, which I know everybody's reading now, and I love that everyone's reading now because it's so fucking good. They should. When I saw it, I was like, never heard of this, let's check it out, and it ended up being one of my favorite books of 2022. SCRIBD is just kind of invaluable to me. I would pay more. Like, I would pay more for it. It's there for me. It's a buddy of mine. We are on the same wavelength. I love SCRIBD. After that, we have Audible. Audible is where I go to if it's not on Libby, if it's not on SCRIBD, and I need it now and I want it now. I do pay for a credit every month, but I also typically end up buying more throughout the month. They do have 3 books for like $35. A lot of times I will use that in between because I don't want to wait for that credit. I've spent so much money on Audible, it's disgusting, honestly. That is the priciest of these 3. By far, but they a lot of times have exclusive contracts where it's only on Audible, and if that's the case, like, you've got me, because I don't want to read it physically. I also have a link for Audible, I think down below. Check that out. I don't know what the perks are or what you get, but I think you get some kind of discount with my code, but check it out down below. Those are the 3 primary apps that I use for these things, but I also use Libro FM from time to time, also NetGalley from time to time, though their platform is glitchy. Not glitchy, but like when you speed up the audiobooks, the sound gets distorted, and so it's just not an enjoyable experience. It has been a minute since I have listened to a book on NetGalley's app, so if that has improved, please let me know. I think that's generally it. So I think today what I'm going to tell you about is all of the books that I have from my library right now. Now, my library lets me take out, I don't know what the max is for physical books, but it's crazy. It's something like 30 or 50 books or something. But in the Libby app, I get 10 books at a time. I can put 10 on hold, and I can put 10 that are actually in my app. Where are you at, Libby? This is where I keep all of my book stuff, my Scribd, my Audible, Kindle, NetGalley. Obviously, I need to re-download those, Pango Books, Storygraph, Playbooks. That's in my library app, Libro FM, Barnes & Noble, just book things. So let's go into Libby. Oh, okay. So let's talk about what I have. I have 8 on loan right now. Great, so we'll do 8 audiobooks today that I have on loan. A couple of these you may have seen in some recent videos. The first one is The Honeys by Ryan LaSala, and I do want to correct myself because in my past video, if you watched that where I did try a chapter with this book, I did say that, oh, I was surprised that it was a man that wrote this, and from what I've learned, Ryan LaSala, I believe they go by they, them pronouns. Okay, so we have The Honeys. I have read the first chapter of this, like I said, for that video, and I'm really interested in getting to this one. It's an 11-hour audiobook. All right, so let's go ahead and look this up on Goodreads. Ryan LaSala, there we go. Okay, so I do know that this is following twins. Mars has always felt like the lesser twin to Carolyn. Yeah, Carolyn. Carolyn goes to this fancy academy school, and she comes home one day, and in the very first chapter, this is all I know about this book, she kind of sneaks into Mars's window and starts calling their name and whispering to them. Mars smells her before they ever see her, and there's a smell, the scent of decay, and it has something to do with this kind of like cult thing or this weird academia thing that she's in at this school. She ends up trying to kill Mars, and in doing so dies herself with a smile on her face as she's dying. Mars's gender fluidity means he's often, okay, so he, him pronouns. He's often excluded from the traditions and expectations of this politically connected family, and that includes attendance at the prestigious Aspen Conservatory Summer Academy, where his sister poured so much of her time, but with his grief still fresh, he insists on attending in her place. So he goes to this academy in her place after she dies and meets her group of friends that are called the Honeys. And they're named after, I guess, because they have a beehive behind their cabin and they raise the bees, but they're like bitches. What Mars finds is a bucolic fairy tale not meant for him, folksy charm and sun-drenched festivities, camouflage old-fashioned gender roles, and toxic preparatory rigor. So he seeks out her old friends, the Honeys, and they're beautiful and terrifying, and he is sure that they're connected to Carolyn's death. But the longer he stays there at this academy, Aspen Academy, he starts to lose his memories. There's something going on with him. There's something toying with his mind, following him in broad daylight. He's on the run. He thinks the same thing is going to happen to him that happened to his sister, and will it happen? We don't know. This has a 3.98 on Goodreads out of 4,531 ratings, which is really good. It's YA. It's YA, heads up. Moving on, I have Severance by Ling Ma. Again, this is one that I read the first chapter of. Let's look at this on Goodreads. Okay, this one has a 3.92 out of 73,000 reviews, which is great. That's actually really impressive. And I did read the first chapter of this. I know it's kind of like this apocalyptic story. We're following Candace, who is a worker bee millennial. She is obsessed with working, so much so that she doesn't really notice when this virus, or I guess it's not a virus, it's a fungus, maybe? Something starts taking over New York City, set in New York City, and they convince her to continue working basically by herself in this office in order to keep operations going throughout this crisis and after everyone has fled New York. Also, she's, in the meantime, taking photographs of just New York as this like empty, barren place under the name, what is it? New York Ghost. Okay. It says, but she won't be able to make it on her own forever, though. Enter a group of survivors led by power-hungry IT tech Bob. I think this is going to be funny. I'm still interested in this. 291 pages, and this came out in 2018. Next we have Unsub by Meg Gardner. It's a thriller. It has like a detective type character. It is a series, but I've heard this is really good. I know Beth from Beth's Book really loves this one. This is a 4.06 out of 11,000 ratings, which is pretty good if you ask me. Okay, yeah, so this is inspired by the Zodiac Killer, and if I remember correctly, each of the books in this series are inspired by a different famous serial killer. I think there's one on Ted Bundy, but it's not like a retelling, it's inspired by. So this is following a young detective determined to apprehend the serial murderer who destroyed her family and terrorized the city 20 years earlier. Okay. So she's been a narcotics detective for 6 months when the killer at the heart of all her childhood nightmares reemerges, and he's called the Prophet. He terrorized the Bay Area in the 1990s and nearly destroyed her father, lead investigator on the case. Okay, so she's following the footsteps of her father. His cryptic messages and mind games drove Detective Mac Hendricks to the brink of madness, and Mac's failure to solve this series of ritualized murders, 11 seemingly unconnected victims left with an ancient sign for Mercury etched on their flesh, was the final nail in the coffin for a once promising career. Oh, okay, generational trauma. 20 years later, 2 bodies are found bearing the haunting signature of the Prophet. So she has to decipher these messages, figure out if it's a copycat or if it's the same guy. This is listed under thriller, mystery fiction, mystery thriller, crime, suspense, audiobook. Nice. 367 pages, so it's a little bit longer.
What do we have next?
Next we have We Keep the Dead Close. I do have a physical copy of this one, which I have too much stuff on me, so I'm not going to grab, but this is a true crime book. Let me look it up on Goodreads here. Okay, this one has a 3.74 out of 10,862 ratings. This is an unsolved case from 1969 at Harvard. I think that's what drew me in. Obsession and love for a girl who dreamt of rising among men. What does that mean, rising among men? She was trying to be powerful, a badass bitch. She was trying to be a boss bitch. The height of counterculture in 1969, and the year universities would seek to curb the unruly spectacles of the student protest, the winter at Harvard University would begin the tumultuous process of merging with Radcliffe, its all-female sister school. Oh, I didn't know that was a thing, but it makes total sense. And the year that Jane Britton, an ambitious 23-year-old graduate student in Harvard's anthropology department, hello Bones, and daughter of Radcliffe vice president, would be found bludgeoned to death in her Cambridge, Massachusetts apartment. Okay. 40 years later, Becky Cooper, a curious undergrad, 40 years after, wow, will hear the first whispers of the story. In the first telling, the body was nameless. A Harvard student had an affair with her professor, and the professor had murdered her in the Peabody Museum of Archaeology and Ethnology because she had threatened to talk about the affair. Though the rumor proves false, the story that unfolds, one that Cooper will follow for 10 years, is even more complex, a tale of gender inequality in academia. Oh, shit. Okay, you're getting my buttons here. A cowboy culture among empowered male elites, the silencing effect of institutions, and our compulsion to rewrite the stories of female victims. Wow. We Keep the Dead Close is a memoir of mirrors, misogyny, and murder. It is at once a rumination on the violence and oppression that rules our revered institutions, a ghost story reflecting one young woman's past into another's present, and a love story for a girl who's lost to history. That sounds so good. Next I have Ottessa Moshfegh, Death in Her Hands. Another one of the weird books that you guys recommended me and that I have been interested in. And I have 14 days still to read that. Let's see. Okay, this is a 3.26 out of 29,000 ratings, which is low, but that doesn't scare me with this author because I've already read one of her books and I know that I like her writing. I'm sure it's good and just weird as hell and a lot of people don't get it. Haunting metaphysical suspense about an elderly widow whose life is upturned when she finds a cryptic note on a walk in the woods that ultimately makes her question everything about her new home. While on her normal daily walk with her dog in the forest woods, our protagonist comes across a note, handwritten and carefully pinned to the ground with the frame of stones. Her name was Magda. Nobody will ever know who killed her. It wasn't me. Here is her dead body. Oh, shit. it. Our narrator is deeply shaken. She has no idea what to make of this. She's new to the area, having moved here from her longtime home after the death of her husband, and she knows very few people, and she's a little shaky even on her best days. Her brooding about this note quickly grows into a full-blown obsession, and she begins to devote herself to exploring the possibilities of her conjectures about who this woman was and how she met her fate. But as we follow her in her investigation, strange dissonances start to accrue, and our faith in her grip on reality weakens. Okay, I like this trope. Unreliable narrator, potentially. Until finally, just as she seems to be facing some of the darkness in her own past with her late husband, we are forced to face the prospect that there is either a more innocent explanation for all of this or a more sinister one that strikes closer to home. Blend of horror, suspense, pitch black comedy asks us to consider how the stories we tell ourselves both guide us closer to the truth and keep us at bay from it. We are in the hands of the narrator whose unreliability is well earned, only this time the stakes have never only this time the stakes have never been higher. Okay. 259 pages, came out in 2020. Next, I have Spare. I know what you're thinking. Why would you read that, Elizabeth? Here's the thing. I have never been into the Meghan Markle and the Prince Harry thing. Like, all of this time has passed without me giving a shit. And then that fucking Netflix documentary came out, and this, I just turned it on one day and watched it, and I thought, you know what? I respect these people. I respect Harry on his journey. I respect him, and I love that he admits that he did wrong in his past and that he's come to a place of growth within his own human, within his self and his soul, that he feels it's only right to separate his new family from his royal family. And all of the implications of the, like, growing up as royalty, I find it fascinating. So I am interested in reading Spare. And apparently he accuses his brother of something bad in there. I don't know. I haven't heard much about it. Let's look it up. Spare. My Prince Harry. Also, I have a thing for redheaded guys. It says a 4.09 out of 90,000 ratings. Of course, it has 90,000 ratings. Geesh. What does this have to say about this other than it's his memoir? Yeah, the racism stuff with Meghan Markle is astounding to me as well, and really, really brings out that just deep-rooted racism within, and the fact that it's coming from English royalty. It makes total sense, but like, you would think we'd move past that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, his mental health and her mental health being at risk. Harry saw no other way to prevent the tragedy of history repeating itself, but to flee his mother country. Over the centuries, leaving the royal family was an act few had dared. The last to try, in fact, had been his mother. Oh. For the first time, Prince Harry tells his own story, chronicling his journey with raw, unflinching honesty. A landmark publication, Spare is full of insight, revelation, self-examination, and hard-won wisdom about the eternal power of love over grief. I love that. 410 pages. This is a longer one. And this just came out in January of this year. Okay, next, I know I don't read a lot of romance on this channel either, but it's February and I wanted to read at least one. And I've seen this one, Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez, on so many best of the year lists. And I thought, you know what, maybe I should check this one out. So I actually don't know what this is about, but I saw it on here and grabbed it up. So let's check it out together. I have 19 days left to read that, so that's good. Part of Your World. Okay, this is 4.38 out of 84,000. Wow, that's really impressive. Okay. All right, 400 pages, came out in April of 2022. After a wild bet, gourmet grilled cheese sandwich, and cuddle with a baby goat, Alexis Montgomery has had her world turned upside down. The cause, Daniel Grant. A ridiculously hot carpenter who's 10 years younger than her. Okay. And as casual as they come, the complete opposite of sophisticated city girl Alexis. And yet their chemistry is undeniable. So this is an age gap romance? Is that what they call these? Here's the thing. I don't like smutty books. I just don't like dirty talk. So in a romance, I want it to just be building that tension, and I want it to be sweet, and I want it to make me feel gushy. So I have no idea if this is if this is that or not. While her ultra-wealthy parents want her to carry on the family legacy of world-renowned surgeons, Alexis doesn't need glory or fame. She's fine with being a mere ER doctor, and every minute she spends with Daniel and the tight-knit town where he lives, she's discovering just what's really important. Yet letting their relationship become anything more than a short-term fling would mean turning her back on her family and giving up the opportunity to help thousands of people. Interesting. Bringing Daniel into her world is impossible, and yet she can't give up the joy she's found with him either. With so many differences between them, how can Alexis possibly choose between her world and his? Oh, that sounds sweet and everything, but the premise, I probably would not have picked this up on my own without any prompting from like other people that have read this book. So I'm very interested to see where that's going to go knowing that. And we have one more book, and that is The Circle by Dave Eggers. Now this one, I don't know what this would qualify as. Let's look it up on Goodreads. This one is for a different, very specific vlog, and if you have any guesses, feel free to guess down below what that might be, because it's just one of several that I'm reading for this vlog that I'm very excited about. Okay, this is a 3.43 out of 206,000. So out of that many ratings, that's pretty solid. Okay, it's listed under fiction, science fiction, dystopia, contemporary, audiobook, adult novels. Okay, and this came out in 2013, 493 pages. Ike. Yikes, that is long. When May Holland is hired to work for The Circle, the world's most powerful internet company. We're an internet company. She feels she's been given the opportunity of a lifetime. The Circle, run out of a sprawling California campus, links users' personal emails, social media, banking, and purchasing with their universal operating system, which we kind of have, resulting in one online identity and a new age of civility and transparency. As May tours the open plan office spaces, she's thrilled with the company's modernity and activity. There are parties that last through the night. There are famous musicians playing on the lawn. There are athletic activities and clubs and brunches and even an aquarium of rare fish retrieved from the Marianas Trench by the CEO. The Marianas Trench keeps coming back up in my life. That is so weird because I am very intrigued by the Marianas Trench. May can't believe her luck, her great fortune to work for the most influential company in the world, even as life beyond the campus grows distant, even as her role in the Circle becomes increasingly public. What begins as the captivating story of one woman's ambition and idealism becomes a heart-racing novel of suspense, raising questions about memory, history, privacy, democracy, and the limits of human knowledge. Okay, that's that. Let me know down below if you can guess what vlog that's going to be for. That's going to be it for this haul. I'll be back with, when I come back with the SCRIBD haul, it's going to be insane because I have at least like 30 books in there that I have saved and not read yet. I'd like to know how many of you actually do listen to audiobooks. In fact, if you do, let's see, put a... what kind of emoji can we use for that? If you like to listen via audio, not even if you just exclusively read audio like I do basically, but if you enjoy an audiobook from time to time, put a pair of headphones, put a headphone emoji down in the comments down below just to let me know kind of like my audience and who listens to audio and who doesn't. And if you absolutely don't ever listen to audio, put just a book emoji down there so I can know what the split looks like. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Don't forget that life is short, so read Riley. Cheers, and goodbye!